Hello and welcome back. So this session we're going to look at the toolbar here at the top of the Equity Atlas page to give you a better idea of what the functionalities are of this tool. So first off, if you scroll all the way to the top left here, you'll see File. Once you click that, it will pull down a bar that gives you three options. These options, Load from File, Save to File, and Save to Equity Atlas, have to do with creating, loading, and saving scenarios that aren't already in the preloaded ones that you see in the beginning point of the introduction. So if you want to create your own scenario from different layers on the maps, you can save them, then reload them, or you can create what Save to Equity Atlas does. It creates a link that you can send to somebody else that will show the scenario that you created. This is a little more higher end functionality, so this is something we'll get into a little bit later. The next portion here is export. So what export does is once you create a map within the mapping functions here, you can click on export, then click on export map, which will export a JPEG or other picture file. Export data table or an export chart will export a JPEG or photo file, picture file of either the table or the chart of the underlying data of the map that you created. Next off is locate. What locate does is that it gives you four options here. The first one is vulnerable populations. What this is basically if you can click one of these five options, it will highlight the areas that show these vulnerable populations within the map that you've created. So if you do create, say, an educational map, and then you click on this top one that says above regional average % populations of color, it will highlight those tracks, census tracts that have the regional average, above regional average % populations of color. So that's what this does. It allows you a quick click functionality so that you can get to the vulnerable populations. So this next portion, find an address, is a little different. What it does, it allows you, if you type in an address here, it will show a pin where that address is. It's a great functionality because, say, if you want to look for a specific location like your house, you can actually type in your address, it'll pull it up, and then you can then create a map around that to see how indicators look around that one point. This will allow you to clear that marker or multiple markers that you create, and then zoom to full extent happens to do with if you zoom in, which zooming is on the right side here, this will allow you to zoom back to the default zoom that you currently see now. Options here have to do with different things like opacity, the symbol ramp color, and map tips, which map tips are basically when you have an indicator on and you basically scroll over an area in your map, it will pull up data on its own, and that's what it's called, a map tip. So if you want to turn off that kind of background data that pulls up on its own, you just click map tips and it will, right here, oops, and it will turn it off for you. But what this does is, so the analysis feature is this area right here. So right now we have counties, and if you wanted to change the color of that, then you can go ahead and do that through this function. The heat map layer looks similar to the analysis features, but it changes the color and the opacity of the indicator that you have selected. So say if you selected a indicator and it comes up in a different one shade, say if it's blue, you can go ahead and select another color here to change it up as you like. These last two pieces here have to do with turning on and off the scale bar and the north arrow. The north arrow is here with the scale bar right here. If you think these are annoying or in your way, you can turn them off by clicking those two buttons. Indicators. So this is one of the most important functions right from the beginning because this area allows you to add and remove indicators or data points for your map. So in order to do so, go ahead and click Add or Remove Indicators. This second window will pop up, and then you have your options of different indicators. These two are your different indicators, and then your analysis feature, which shows basically which analysis unit you would like the indicator to look at. So if you want to look at neighborhoods or census tracts, you just go ahead and click that, and once you close it, it will change up here in the analysis units. Reference layers has to do with having background reference layers that you can pull up to give you a better perspective of different things that are happening within the Portland metro region. So if you want to look at light rail stops, freeways, if you want any of this on your map that you think might be important, there's quite a bit down here. Just go ahead and scroll on down, select what you need, and it should show up. We'll go through that in a different session. For now, this is just a kind of overall view of what you can select from. Again, these two are your main indicators. You want to say if you want to go to shapes. The difference between shapes and heat maps is a raster map, and shape is a choropleth map or a point map. It's basically a vector map. And vector maps tend to be different because they aren't as pinpoint as heat maps, and they you can select multiple from here by, say, if you say quality education, go ahead and unclick this little plus, then select what you want. And whenever you select, it'll go in this little box over here, and it'll show up in the map. So let's turn that off. In addition to that, about indicators currently is offline, but what it's going to be a link to the CLF website, which will give you more information about the metadata behind the data, and also a little description of what the data is trying to show. Additionally, we have this tables and charts section. Table and chart basically pulls up the data in a chart or table format of the map that you're currently looking at. So unlike the export will actually just take a photo and it'll export the data in the chart in a photo file, whereas the table and the chart will pull up the data behind in a table or chart in something that is usable. You can actually play around with the data a bit. So it's not just a snap screenshot of the data that you're looking at. And then lastly, we have windows, which is we have the welcome window. By clicking this, we'll take you back to the beginning page, and then beginning page I mean as the welcome introduction box, that where you had to click either skip or start with scenario. And then the table of contents box basically turns off this little box over here on the left. See how it's disappeared? So if I turn it on again, it shows up. And then the help, this help one is basically will give you links to different areas on CLF's website where you can do you can look at tutorials, which you're looking at now, and you can report a bug, and it'll give you information about the tool itself. So that's a little bit about the toolbar. In the next session, we're going to be looking at the table of contents and how to play around with the data within these areas, and we'll go through a little bit more of the usability of each of these sections of the toolbar itself. So yeah, see you soon.